Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Dark Pixel Podcast. My name is Mike.
My name is Landon.
And we got some great viewer-suggested topics today. That's what we're going to be going over. Once again, we were kind of talking about this before we started. Post E3, just not a lot of news. Also, apologize for the quality of the video there. I think it has to do with internet connection. I was doing a stream a little bit earlier. It started to dip out a little bit towards the end, and I think it's because we have a LAN center here that opens up at nighttime, and all those computers are connected to the internet. They're all, you know, playing games over there, so I think that might have something to do with it.
Maybe it's the LAN center I'm running out of my place.
Yeah, this Landon's LAN center is just jacking up his feet.
The Landon Center. All right.
The Landon Center. Yeah, we should be getting Google Fiber in the building in the next couple months. So hopefully the internet speed will go back to what I'm used to from when I was living in Provo.
Dude, I know. You almost don't notice it once you have super fast internet for a while. You stop thinking about internet speeds. Then you go somewhere else and it's like, ooh.
I mean, most of the time it's decent. Like streaming video is fine. It's just the streaming when I'm uploading streaming, or obviously now for whatever reason anyways. But if I'm like watching videos, I never notice it or anything like that. Okay, Soto Juan was asking, I recently found out that Dragon Quest XI won't have voice acting, and he provided a source for that, which I read, and it's true. A lot of people have mixed opinions online. While Dragon Quest VIII has some of the best, most Japanese games have questionable voice acting, let alone bad translation, that can ruin them for many people. I personally have I personally have a, quote, I love it because it's so bad it's good attitude towards them, and don't mind mediocre voice acting or strange wording and character lines. I wanted Dark Pixel Gaming's thoughts on a big game like Dragon Quest not having voice acting. Why do you think it doesn't, and what are your thoughts? It is interesting that the series has had voice acting before, and good voice acting too. Like you said, Dragon Quest VIII, really, really good voice acting actually in that game, in my opinion. But I actually have no issue whatsoever with games not having voice acting. I know a lot of people were really pulling for Zelda to get with the times and have voice acting, and as we've said many times, bad voice acting is worse than no voice acting, and I think Breath of the Wild has bad voice acting in English. I've not listened to it in other languages. I don't know. The Japanese seems pretty good. But yeah, I come from an era long past where that's all we had were games with no voice acting. You read it, and I was perfectly happy to play games that way. I'm still perfectly happy to play games that way. I think that people who were born post like PS2 era might feel different about it, since that's kind of been a standard for them their whole lives. But or maybe not born after, but at least started playing games after.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm totally cool with it as long as the writing's good and as long as the game is good. Voice acting doesn't bother me. It bothers me a lot more when it's there and it's not good. So.
Yeah, it's true. What Juan's saying here, I love it because it's so bad it's good kind of thing. Yeah. I feel like that's come around because there has historically been a lot of really poorly voice acted anime, and early on a lot of poorly voice acted video games, and you just got what you got. Yeah. And I feel like unfortunately some people have just like accepted a pretty low standard of quality because like they didn't have another option, so they just like got used to it. And if you don't have a problem with that, that's fine. But like my belief is that if, you know, in a vacuum, I suppose, if you were just immediately exposed to some of the voice acting that, especially like that we've seen, like Breath of the Wild is a great example, you'd be like, ooh, no. So I think there's some familiarity that can carry if you're like, if you watch a lot of anime or play a lot of voice acted games with kind of subpar voice acting. But like okay, I haven't seen the new Spider-Man yet. I'm going to go see it sometime this week. But if I went to see the new Spider-Man and there was acting anywhere close to what the voice acting is of Breath of the Wild, for example, I would just be like, screw this. What's this crap? Like, why? You know, but like, it's a genre convention.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's your expectations going in. So it's like, and it's like, I don't want to crap on anybody who's like what they can get, but I'm definitely with you, Mike. Like, I would almost rather not have voice acting than have poor voice acting. Like, fortunately, most of like Breath of the Wild is still not. It's voice acted in a way that's almost like, why did you bother? Because you'll have that one intro scene where it's like, you know, the dude like looks over his shoulder and it says his name, and he pauses awkwardly for a while, and then you don't hear him talk again until you're like trying to get into the Divine Beast or whatever, and only a couple like, you can do it type lines. So it's like, I could do without that, but
speaking of, voice acting that is so bad it's good. Let's take a listen to this right here.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa.
That's a great example, actually. That's a great one.
So it's possible. It is definitely possible to have acting that's so bad that it becomes enjoyable. But do you really want that from DQ? Or is that something that you expect to be at the top of the line in terms of video games? You know what I mean? Especially with DQ8 being so good. Yeah. In terms of its voice acting, I think having bad voice acting in something that you pay good money for, like maybe some people pay good money for The Room. I watched it for free. I wouldn't pay for that movie, but I don't know. There's a difference, like, between something that is. I mean, I don't know if you can consider Dragon Quest AAA, but something with a sizable budget, something that's supposed to be competently made, something that has a legacy to it, like Zelda does, for instance. Like, it's just going to be more off-putting there than it is for some guy, Tommy Wiseau, to make a movie. You know, there's not the same expectation, so you can enjoy this, but you wouldn't enjoy it in this. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess no voice acting in Dragon Quest 9. I doubt Dragon Quest 10 has any. I really haven't looked into that. Yeah. It's just an MMO, right? So I'm curious if this was like a budgetary or like a space limitations decision on their part, like, or just a time constraint kind of thing. I don't know. I mean,
it's a good question. I don't know either. It's strange. It seems like a strange choice to me. I mean, it's Square Enix. It's not like Nihon Falcom or something like that.
Right?
It's not like Xseed. This is Square Enix. They certainly have the resources for it, especially for what is in Japan, like their most popular game series property that they have.
It's true. I mean, like, you in Japan you don't get bigger than this, so I don't know. I'm okay with it. Like, I was playing, I think it was Breath of the Wild last night, and I was realizing that I was speeding through some dialogue quicker than I would if I was like reading it out loud myself or hearing it acted out. And sometimes that's kind of nice because like, if every time you talk to Beetle, he had to say his whole thing before, you know, instead of just being able to kind of speed through his dialogue. Monster Hunter games, I think, a good example of that too. Those are honestly kind of dialogue heavy in the towns sometimes, and sometimes you just want to like boom, 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 what you got for me, and especially if it's not something that is like a scene with any dramatic impact. If they're just giving you info, here's how you do this. Then it's nice to be able to speed things up a little bit. And there's just not a way to. Well, okay, you can with voice acting, but what I always do with a voice acting game is I tend to wait until they're done saying, you know, their line, even though I've read it, just because it sounds so weird when you keep cutting people off.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens too, where you think, like, or where you accidentally skip through a line or something like that. Well, what bothers me worse is when, you know, you're going through a scripted sequence where you're playing the game, you're walking, and someone's talking, they're having like dialogue, but then you like reach the point of the next cutscene initiation. So like it cuts off what they say right as you enter the scene. You're like, I'll never know what he was gonna say now. I'll never know.
Red Dead Redemption did some of that, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Like, I think almost all modern games that have scripted dialogue sequences during gameplay or movement or whatever have that problem. But yeah, like you're saying, I'll accidentally in Breath of the Wild or something, or a lot of games that have voice acting tied to the current text box. So it's like the current text box will read, and then it will wait for you to click before the next sound file starts. Recently played Fire Emblem Echoes. It was the same way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you accidentally hit it before they stop, or I don't know. Like sometimes there's a break in what they're saying, so it's like the first part of the line comes up, it's like ... and then like they would continue another line. You think that the dialogue's over, so you go to press it, and then it's like, oh crap, they were saying something. Oh,
dang it.
Stuff like that. Yeah, it drives me crazy when I skip dialogue like
Persona 5, and Persona 4 might have done this, I don't remember, but they've got like a dialogue record that you can go back and like at any point and go be like, well, what was this whole conversation up to this point? And you can look at that and replay individual lines, which was great for playing in Japanese, because if I could go back. I think that's an easy feature to throw in any game. It's nice because it sucks when you skip
that's true.
Something
text in the game, just freaking let me access it and read it.
Yeah, just put in like a pause menu or something. Yeah. I feel like there are some games that you could argue maybe would have been worse if they were fully voice acted. Like, I think Ocarina of Time, I see some areas where, like with Raru, like the owl showing up. If that was voice acted, that would drive me bonkers. All his exposition and crap.
Yeah, that'd be annoying. Unless he was voiced by like a total beast, like freaking Ian McKellen or something.
Yeah, okay, there you go. There you go. But that's actually a great point. Like, if you're gonna do it, you got to do it right. Like,
you got to do it right, man.
You got to do it right. Like the like Shadows of Mordor and
oh man,
the
great example
coming up. It's
of a game
I
should have hated, and I should have not liked it. Everything about my feelings towards Tolkien's world dictated that I must hate that game.
Right.
And I loved it, and a big reason why is because the performances were so good. Like, and the writing was so good. It was just like
it enhanced it. Yeah.
I can't dislike this. I dislike the idea of it, but the execution of it is good.
Well, like, if you think of that opening scene in that game, the opening couple scenes, I guess you'd call it, you know, with the fighting and stuff, like, if those were text boxes, you would lose almost all of the impact that that scene carries. With his, this isn't like a big spoiler for the game because it's like the first thing that happens. But, you know, the orcs right there, and they've got his wife and all. I mean, you can hear in their voices how desperate everybody is in that moment. And, like, that's a great example of something where the voice acting it totally enhanced it and made it better, like, undisputably.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, that's a good point. So, switching back over to his question, it's like, I think that in some games cases, like that game, for instance, if they had said, we're not going to do voice acting, it's too expensive, or not worth the time, that would have hurt it.
Yeah.
But in Dragon Quest's case, I think with it being something that is so old, I mean, it goes back to like 86, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And it being largely text-based throughout its history, I think it's something that can still work. Because Dragon Quest games have largely stayed the same. Whereas Final Fantasy has really changed over the course of its history and has tried a lot of different things. Dragon Quest has stayed pretty rooted in what its identity is. And I think for that reason, especially with what they're doing with the 3DS version, I think that a lack of voice acting will feel fine.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Maybe the PS4 people will be upset. People will want to buy it on PS4, but I don't think it'll be a big deal. I'm debating whether I'll get it on Switch. or PS4 because I think that I just love the idea of getting in bed at night, just taking that thing out, just like playing it while I...
And we still don't know how long we have to wait for that, right? So
that's true. There's not like an announcement.
I hope it's not too long, but
that's a good point. I don't know if I'm going to wait if it is coming here at all. I'm not going to wait for a Switch version if there's a PS4 version available. I'll probably just go get that because I'm really excited to play that game. It looks great.
Yeah, it looks sweet. And then it comes out in Japan this week or next week?
Oh, does it really?
I think it's next week because I think it's right before or after Splatoon 2, and that's like the 21st or 20th or something.
Fetch. Splatoon 2.
We're really close. Both those games.
Yeah. By the way, your video looks spectacular now. I don't know what happened. Somebody must have left the LAN center or something. But you're clear.
Somebody got pissed, too much Counter-Strike, and they just rage quit.
I'm out of here. Unplugged the Ethernet cable. Anyways, yeah, I can see why people would be on either side of that issue. I do think that there are some games that you take the voice acting away and it changes the whole character of the game. But I don't think that's the case for Dragon Quest. I think Dragon Quest will be fine without voice acting, personally.
I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of silliness in Dragon Quest that I think still that charm can come across if it's translated well.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that question, Soto Juan.
A good one.
Total beast.
Yeah.
Anders Bod Mai. How do you pronounce that? How do you pronounce two A's? B-A-A-D.
Bod sounds right to me, but Bod.
Anders Bod Mai. Tell us how to pronounce your name so I can get it right next time. Do you think Shigeru Miyamoto entering the stage at Ubisoft's press conference is the beginning of a new partnership or beginning of new partnerships Nintendo is willing to make with third-party studios, or is this something we won't see again? Ubisoft seems to have almost full creative control, I'm guessing, over Nintendo's single most important character. Do you think Nintendo is willing to give that creative freedom to other third-party studios in the future? Well, interesting question. I think maybe one reason why they have been so protective of it in more recent years is because of the awful CDI games where they gave Zelda and Mario full creative control to someone else to make something, and they were just garbage, right? So, I mean, that's a different time, different place.
Yeah.
Ubisoft is not whoever made that. People are going to debate the legitimacy or the quality of Ubisoft games, but there's no question that Ubisoft does not make freaking Wand of Gamelon. So I think Ubisoft's problem is just a matter of a corporate business strategy, not a lack of talent. So you get the right talent and you give them the right time and resources, they can make something great at Ubisoft. I mean, they have many great games over the years. So it does seem, I mean, again, you said you're guessing that Nintendo gave them full creative control. Who knows how much or if that's true. I would guess it as well. Especially considering what Miyamoto said at that stage event. Like, it seemed like he tried the game out not having been like totally familiar with it along the process in order for him to be like that impressed by it, right? Like, and be like, whoa, like, holy crap, this is amazing. He would have known that if he was like there hawking over them, like making choices and telling them, no, don't do this, do that. Like, I don't think he would have said what he did if that were the case. So I'm with you there. It seems to be the case, but I guess we'll see how well the game does. If it does well, and whatever deal they worked out, like whatever the particulars of that contract were, it's like, oh, that worked for us, let's do it again. I don't see why not. You know, they do have other studios working with Mario all the time. Yeah. For instance, the Mario sports games with Castle, what is that
the
developer?
Guys, Camelot,
yeah. Camelot, but those are internally, like, Nintendo owns those.
Yeah.
But they're not like directly they don't have one of their internal development teams making those, right? So
yeah, I was gonna say it reminds me of Rare, but I mean Rare was a second-party studio, so I mean they were a Nintendo dedicated studio. So getting to do Donkey Kong Country and stuff
true.
Back in the day, but I don't know how much Nintendo interfered with what Rare was doing at the time.
Is Retro a Nintendo studio? Are they a second party, or are they?
I've only ever heard of them making games for Nintendo consoles. So
yeah, but I wonder if like, because they're like a Western studio. They're like based in Dallas or something, right? So
or Austin, yeah.
So are they actually like? Does Nintendo like own stock in them, or is it just like you guys are beasts, and we're willing to give you work for the highest bid, so they just keep making games for them, and or what?
I don't know, because then there's studios like Monolith where
no, Monolith is by Nintendo. Yes,
but they if the way that ownership works is the same as Retro, right? Like if they own them outright, or if they just because you would know if they didn't own them outright, because they would probably work on stuff other than just
Nintendo own Retro Studios.
That's a good thing to look up. I have a theory though about the Ubisoft thing, and that's that Ubisoft supported the Wii U like better than any other publisher at the time, probably better than Nintendo themselves even. At launch, they had some really well, Zombie U was probably the single best use of the gamepad over the course of the lifetime of the
freaking awesome
the Wii U,
it really was. It was like a launch game, and it's like the only one that used it the right way.
Yeah, and it's like nobody realized at the time, but that was the peak. That was peak gamepad. They weren't going to get better.
Yeah.
Nope. But I have a theory.
By the way, Retro is a division of Nintendo.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay, that makes sense.
Answer that.
I have a theory that Ubisoft was kind of burned there, and we know that this game started development, like 3 years ago or so. So if we imagine the position Nintendo was in about 3 years ago, I don't think they had a spectacular E3. That would have been 2 E3s before the Breath of the Wild one, or 1 E3 before. Was that the Federation Force E3?
Oh man,
I'm trying to remember. Anyways, I feel like Nintendo was at probably the lowest point they'd been in their modern history, and that after Ubisoft getting burned, but having legitimately, shown their support for the Wii U, I feel like Nintendo, in some ways, this deal could represent some amount of good faith.
Like like a recompense, or
not that they would like let them use it for free outright, but that I could see that kind of sweetening the deal a little bit. Like Ubisoft saying, hey, we want to keep helping you guys here, but like the Wii U's not selling so hot, and we might just move all our development, because Ubisoft had a game that was apparently finished, and I never heard what this was. It was apparently finished, and they were waiting to release it on the Wii U until there were more Wii U's in the wild. Do you remember hearing about that?
That is so weird.
So I don't know what that was. I don't know whatever came of that.
That's so weird, because like if that's true, like you already sunk all the development cost into the game, and you're not going to recoup any of that with this. I'd rather get nothing than have it sell, I don't know, 25% of what we need.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it was like out of desperation almost. It was like, well, we would get, I don't know, because it also depends on who it was targeted towards, and that has to have been a game that's come out by now. So I'm not sure what that would have been.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But if you imagine a publisher in that situation, they're probably not very happy that they have to do that if they feel like they have to. So, anyways, I have an inkling that maybe there was a little bit of Nintendo trying to curry some favor with Ubisoft, and that was a pretty big bargaining chip they could put down. Like, well, we'll let you make a Mario game.
No, it's a possibility.
Something like that.
What if they did that for like every major studio, but like we just don't know it yet because they're not ready to know. It's like EA will have Mario game, freaking like
an EA first-person shooter.
Square Enix will do Mario freaking RPG 2.
You know what? That could be
Activision.
Sick. Everyone's take on Mario, because like Mario RPG was phenomenal, right? BioWare
does the Mario Galaxy, but it's like freaking Mass Effect Mario.
And you can rearrange the face however you want. It's a lot.
Dude.
Yeah, but
Mario. Dude, yes, Yeah, it has the same little hand, and that's how you like change the
stretch
face
it out.
creation, face creation, and mass Mario Galaxy.
Mario 64.
Well, I mean, like, I'm trying to think of what the title of a BioWare Mass Effect Mario Galaxy game.
Mario Andromeda. Mario.
Mario Andromeda's not bad. Anyways, yeah, your face creation is the freaking like drag the face,
stretching it out. Oh my gosh, yeah, that would be interesting. Anyway, that's been my theory. But I would love to see Nintendo open up a little more and be more willing to work with people that you've never seen touch Nintendo properties before.
Every single freaking game developer would jump all over the opportunity to be given the license to make their own Mario game.
Well, we've seen Capcom do Zelda games, so I don't think it's so far out. If you think about it, it would be interesting to see a Square Enix take on Zelda. Did I say Capcom did Mario? Capcom.
No, you said Zelda. You said Zelda. Okay. I think they did. Was it Oracle Seasons and Ages?
Yeah, the Oracle games and Minish Cap. I think
Minish Cap as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so
those were all Beast games. So there you go.
They could do it. Oh, and that's where the director of Breath of the Wild came across, I believe, was he was working on Capcom, and then he came over to Nintendo. So it's also a good way to find outside talent, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like this guy who's making Mario+Rabbids, the guy who's like in tears because Miyamoto told him how good his game was.
Yeah,
they're gonna freaking
they're gonna poach him.
They're gonna poach him over, dude. Come make more Mario games for me. You're my new protege. You're taking my place. I have to retire now.
Oh my gosh, he becomes president of Nintendo. Can't speak a lick of Japanese. Great. I don't know. Maybe he can. I don't know.
That would be freaking funny. Let's see. Did we answer the whole question? Do you think Nintendo is willing to give that creative freedom to other third parties? Willingness? I think they're still going to be very protective, but I mean they've already shown they are willing to some degree.
Yeah.
To get a deal perhaps, but I hope so. I think that'd be a good way to just make money. Just like get freaking Bethesda working on a Mario game. Like why not? Like get everybody working on a Mario game.
Yeah.
You're gonna get profits from all of that.
I think that's you could do the Mushroom Kingdom universe. They're all connected, like with the superhero stuff.
Yeah, dude. Freaking yeah.
Get a hardcore storyline.
The Mushroom Kingdom needs a universe. And then there'll be like all the Marios, kind of like Sonic Generations, but like a lot more than that. All the Marios come together and like have to fight.
They have to team up. Take out Thanos.
Yeah.
There you go.
Whatever. Okay, good question, Anders. Moving on to Tayson's Gaming Spot. He has a two-part question. First is, should development teams test their games, have them for longer before releasing them? And two, are video games now often announced too early? I think the question to both of those are yes, but it's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, automatically the answer is, should I spend more time making this better? Yes. Should you do it if it's going to push you into the red ink? No. I mean, there has to be a line in the sand drawn somewhere. It's like, I don't care where we're at this point. Like, we can't just keep putting money into this thing. Like, we've got to do what we can to make money back. Otherwise, you can't keep going. So, the answer, should development teams take to test their games, which, I mean, they do, but have them for longer before releasing them? The intuitive answer is yes, but it's no if that means that Nintendo can't make the next Zelda game because they delayed it again. You know what I mean? Or if they have to wait a certain number of years in order to accrue the funds to be able to do it again. Like, then you have to wait longer than you usually would. Like, in that case, the answer is no, I think. Are they announced too early? Or let Landon get the first part.
I was going to say that I think like the ability to detect like diminishing returns is really important. Like, you have to be able to realize when you're getting less out of the time you're putting into it. So I'm sure there's a phase of game development where you're getting a lot. The game's improving dramatically for every extra person that works on it or the hours that go into it. But there's a point where it's almost, when you get to that polished kind of level, and then, above that, video games are art, and art's never really done. You can always keep adding things and tweaking for forever. So it takes like a good project manager to recognize when you've hit that point where it's like, we're not getting as much out of the time we're putting into this now. And that's tricky because there's a difference between like good enough, but not great, and then and a great game. And sometimes that might come through the QA testing and stuff like that. But, I feel like a lot of games skimp on the testing to meet like a deadline, because that's an easy thing to cut, and then allow the users to do some kind of essentially beta test the game for you, right? Which everyone hates. But so like think of like Final Fantasy 15 recently, and that was a game that had to be delayed because there were parts of the game that just weren't working right. And you have to imagine that they ate into that testing time just because they didn't have crucial parts of the game finished. And Final Fantasy 15 honestly might be a game that could have benefited immensely from another year or something like that.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. But, I think that's a great, example of like this game, well, as it stands, was only in development for 3 years, but you have to realize that came on the back of being a like in and out of development thing for 7 years previous to that. And like all the resources that went into building a new engine for it and everything like that. Like you have to, as much as all of us who are interested in the quality of the final product sit there and go like, oh, why didn't you just give them more time? It's like, because if
it has
they
to be
do,
done at some point,
then they can't do Final Fantasy VII Remake or Kingdom Hearts 3 because they lose so much money on one thing that even if it does hit their target, which I don't think it did, well, whatever their target was, I know that they had said that they had hopes to hit 10 million, which they didn't do. But even if it hits that, if you're not going to make not only recoup the costs, but make enough to keep your projects in the pipeline going, then you've screwed yourself. It can like just collapse the whole thing if you let that thing just eat up all those resources.
Yeah, you have to. There's something to be said for momentum. It's like you want people who get excited about your company or your game to have somewhere to put that energy, and they're only going to have it for so long after a game comes out, which I think is what motivates games sometimes. Or about some franchises go with like 2 to 3 year releases, and some of them go with like Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty for a while, or annual, because they want to maintain the momentum, because it costs more money to recapture a customer versus just keeping one that you have. It's a lot more expensive to find new ones, and you could lose people if you take too long. So it's so tough to like balance, and that's the business side. That's the stuff that a lot of people don't like to talk about because it's not fun and sexy, and it's not what people are playing the game for. But
a real tough balancing act.
Yeah.
And whether rightfully so or not, corporate executives are always going to take the heat from the creatives and the people who are interested in the art, like, because they don't get it, but like they get something else that all of us don't get to. Like I'm not a business minded person. And when I sit in meetings with business-minded people, I just like go like, ugh. But like, without those dudes, like this stuff doesn't get made. Like they're the ones who get the resources together. They're the ones who provide the means. They create the machine in which the creatives can do their stuff. Now, do they meddle too much in some instances? Yes. Like they're the ones with the power and the money, and so like they think that they have a good idea of how it should go, and they often don't. They're not good creatives themselves. They don't know what they're talking about, and they hurt a project because of it. But it's really one of those jobs, I think, that you can't win in because you're rich and people envy rich people. And you're in a position of power, and so it's like you get to make these decisions that like people's lives and passions rely on, and you can crush people's dreams easily with those choices. And so it's a thankless position, but one that is totally necessary and very, very difficult, very, very hard to manage all of these, especially as big as these companies get with all the money. It's just like, holy crap, and you're trying to get all these people to hit their deadlines, and it's hard to do, and it's like, where are we going to come up with this money? Let's get a remaster out there, let's pull this in so we can get this finished. And like, you know, I think we harp real hard on executives, and I think a lot of times rightfully so, but I think it's also important to remember that their job is not easy at all.
For me, I find that the executives I think are the most, I don't know, because I think there's some kind of balance to be found. Like a great example to me is Ed Catmull with Pixar. He developed some of the techniques that are used in 3D modeling, like himself. Like when he was starting out,
he was once a guy, and he rose up to the top.
Yeah, and he has that skill set. I think Satoru Iwata was another great example of somebody who you could say that maybe Iwata. Ed Catmull, I think, is a besides some questionable kind of collusion that happened in Silicon Valley between like Apple and Pixar and a few other companies, where they were agreeing not to poach from each other, which is like, you can't do that. But you know, I think he's a good businessman. I think he's a good example of somebody who gets it all the way through the process. You don't have to understand what every part of the process is doing, but I do think the best decision makers are ones that have you know, have experienced it. So like Satoru Iwata, obviously being a killer programmer himself. And I think that you get a little bit more trust from your employees that way. I think that there's some companies where if the president died, not as many people would care that much. But you have some companies where if the president of that company died, the employees care about that person. And that says a lot to me of somebody who's able to balance that kind of stuff. So whether, you know, Kazurai or anyone at Sony is that, or, you know, because some of these executives like to be really visible and some of them don't. And so,
by the way, when I was at E3, I walked right past Ken, what's his name? The current president of Nintendo, what's his name?
Oh, yeah.
What's his name?
Oh, I can't.
President of Nintendo. It's not Ken. I'm thinking of Ken Kutaragi, but
no, it's oh jeez,
Nintendo
I don't know why I can't do this right now. No, I can't.
Tatsumi Kimishima.
Yeah, Kimishima. That's right.
I walked right past that fetcher, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Like, he's who he is, man. He's like hard-faced Japanese businessman.
Yeah.
I'm on my way to do a deal or something, but it's just weird. It's weird to walk past somebody you saw on a big screen.
We had Aonuma
announcing.
Behind us when we were there for Breath of the Wild. He was coming and going in those rooms right behind us.
Yeah, he was right next to us.
Like, what the heck? Yeah, I understand there's a personality type that doesn't want to get bogged down in details, that tends to be a CEO personality type. They just want to be big picture and everything. And that works for a lot of companies. I think there's that X factor where it's like not every CEO is necessarily a CEO because of merit. Sometimes it's because of circumstance. But I think there are CEOs out there that it's like, this guy freaking gets it. And then you've got interest of the employees. And so like with Square Enix, there's been a lot of questions about how well managed the company is, right? They seem to mismanage projects, and we can only speculate about that. But internally, if the employees feel like that, then that's going to cause some problems, some morale issues and that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, I think that there's obviously many, many, many different kinds of people that are in positions like that. But I think you can boil it down to the type of executive who understands, this is my area of expertise and this is not. And I'm going to get a lot of people together who are good at what they do, and I will let them take care of what they do, and I will do what I'm good at. Then you've got executives like you're talking about who came from here and rise to the top and are able to talk to shareholders in a way that's almost like a mediator kind of role between their employees, the people under them, who they understand they came from that same place and they're able to communicate why this or that needs to be done. I think that Iwata was a good example of that. You know, he was always like quelling the rising tide of the investors. I mean, like, this is why we do what we do.
The current state of Nintendo is so weird to me right now because I think Kimishima is doing an amazing job, but it's still strange to me that the president of a video game company is somebody who really, I don't think has ever played a video game. And that's kind of what it was when Nintendo first went into video games. He, you know, what's his name? Not Yamauchi, was it Yamauchi? Who, he played games a little, but he was not, he wasn't.
Yeah, he's not
you have to be the target audience, but yeah, with Kimishima, it's just so strange when you have somebody like Kimishima in there, and he's like a banking background type. He doesn't play games at all, and I always have some part of me in the back of my head that's like, I wonder if there's ever a decision that comes along that he's like, I'm not qualified to, you know, determine this, and he passes it down to someone below him who actually does play video games.
Yeah. I'm assuming that has to be the case. I mean, he's not a designer, so the fact that Nintendo right now, I think by the end of the year, we'll have quite a good lineup of some really stellar games, and like the creativity, I think, of the Switch itself. I mean, he has, what's that guy, their new spokesman guy, the guy who's in direct from Mario. I feel like that's an example of that. As an example of Kimishima or somebody up there at the top saying like, who can we find? Who knows this stuff? This guy knows it. Get him in there and let him be that face. Let him take care of that, and we'll take care of this business.
It's just it's easy with video games because it's like video games are so relatively new, and there's a lot of people that don't play video games that are his age. But if you were to imagine like the president of Ford not having a driver's license, or you know what I mean, it's a little like, should you be the president of this company? You know, and I'm not trying to say that Kimishima is not doing a good job, but when you kind of like when you look at other businesses, I feel like there's a certain expectation just because like cars have been around forever, so of course you're going to have an old guy who, you know, drives cars as your president. But someday I think we'll have those old people that actually grew up playing games leading these companies, because it's still such a new thing. And I wonder if we'll see any difference from at that point in time. Maybe not.
Yeah. I don't know. At the same time, like, I totally get where you're coming from. Like, yeah, there is an expectation, and I think that to some degree, if you want to lead people, you should have some level of understanding of what they do. Whether you've had experience in it or you just have you've studied it or whatever to an extent to where you can communicate with those people in a way that makes sense to them and where you can give good direction.
Sometimes I feel like it's just like a relatability thing that can keep company morale high. Because like when I was in Japan, when I lived there, the president of Nissan changed over and it became this French guy. And people were flipping out about it because they were like, he's not Japanese. This is a Japanese company. He shouldn't be the president of this company. Like, he doesn't understand and he doesn't get all these things. And normal people on the street were like aware of this and complaining about it. And I thought it was so strange. I was like, wow, I wonder if the employees of Nissan care. I wonder if that bothers them at all. In obviously Nissan has employees all over the world, but in Japan specifically at their headquarters, I wonder if that's an issue, if they would have higher morale and feel more optimistic about the company if they had a Japanese guy in there versus, or maybe alternatively, you need someone who has such a different perspective from what you have that it's beneficial to have someone who is from a whole nother, you know, the other side of the earth, so to speak. You know?
And that was kind of the other point I was going to make, is that like I also think in some cases it's a good idea to have somebody who just understands the other half of the business so much better than you. You know, somebody who gets like the numbers, gets the business side of things, so like is able to make sense of that stuff. You know, creative types I have seen mostly just generally have no interest in that side of things. It's like I don't want to think about that. That's stressful. It's not something I'm passionate about. I just want to create and make something that people enjoy, and like trying to add on top of that this responsibility, especially with a large company like that, of trying to manage all that other stuff. I think it makes sense in some cases to put somebody in there who's just good at that thing, and let's let them do that.
That's the thing I've always found to be funny. Like, you know what they say about meritocracies? Like, you'll get promoted from a job if you're good at it, and then if you're good at that next job, you'll get promoted again until you end in a job that you're not good enough to get promoted from. And then you fill all your jobs with people that aren't good at what they're doing, but they were good at the last thing they did. I've thought about that with like Aonuma or Miyamoto at Nintendo being not really the hands-on creators that at some point in time they were. Position they're in now, they aren't. That's not what they do. It's not what they do at all. Like, Miyamoto really doesn't, his name will be up there as a producer, but he's really not giving input on game design anymore. He might be someone who passes off on something at a high level, but like Aonuma would play Breath of the Wild, you know, after a 6-month development period had been completed, and then he would play it and be like, oh, and then that's where he was like, oh, this isn't what I thought we were making, kind of thing. But I wonder if there's a problem too, where it's just like, don't promote those types to those kinds of positions, because they were possibly serving the company better, not in a lower position per se, but in a position where it's still a creative application of their skills. You know what I mean? Where like Miyamoto now, I know is positioned something, what do they call it? He's a chief creative officer or something similar to that. So I know they're trying to keep him in there, but there's a difference between somebody who's a phenomenal artist and somebody who's a phenomenal manager. And they're not always, just because you're a good artist and the next step up is a management job, doesn't mean you're
going to be good at it. I think Hironobu Sakaguchi might be a good example of this. Like, of course, Japanese business is so secretive. It's hard to really know all the details, but Hian and I discussed on Monday's video all about the merger and business practices that were going on pre-2000 to just after 2000 in Square, and the big merger, and like how things changed and everybody was reshuffled in upper management. And but I think even more telling is some of the business practices made by Sakaguchi directly after that, when he left to make, or when he formed Mistwalker, and he decided to make a game for the Xbox 360. It's like, your fan base is, especially in Japan, they're not on Xbox 360 at all. Like, if you're thinking about it from a business perspective, it's like that is a really, really strange and kind of nonsensical decision. If you're trying to reach people who care about you, you make a game for the platform where they are at. To maximize your profits. But I think that he had some kind of personal problem with some of the executives at Sony, which he actually stated in one of his interviews. He's like, I don't think it's a good system it's hard to develop for it.
It was the cell processor.
Yeah, and I don't like the president, whatever his name is. So it's like, you're letting those kinds of decisions like get in the way of you seeing the fact that the Xbox 360 is going nowhere in Japan, and that the Western audience that gravitates towards the Xbox 360 probably are not interested in JRPGs. So it's like,
did he not get an exclusivity deal from Microsoft? Did they not?
There was an exclusivity deal, but I mean,
so I wonder if that helped
sold poorly.
The initial development of the game. I wonder if that's how he got the money for it.
I'm sure that had something to do with it, but I mean, he didn't do. Mistwalker doesn't do development. Like, they don't do the number crunching, the programming part of it. They just do design, and they had other they outsource.
Are they not programming Terra Battle?
Well, I don't know.
They're the only name on Terra Battle that I see.
I don't know if they need like a whole team for that, but I know that on The Last Story and on Blue Dragon and on Lost Odyssey, they were just design.
Who did who did they work with?
I'm pretty sure they worked with like Microsoft internal teams on Lost Odyssey, but and with Nintendo people on The Last Story. But in any case, I don't know. It's just like, he might be an example, I think, of what you're talking about, where this dude's a phenomenal director, phenomenal producer of games, not necessarily a good person to be making executive decisions. I think that the movie Spirits Within is a good example of that. I mean, they went and created this like state of the art film production studio in Hawaii, and like just like put so much money into making sure this was the absolute top of the line, like this deal with Sony and stuff. And it's just like, you know, before like having any like real proof of concept that like this is actually going to make a return for us, they're just relying completely on the Final Fantasy brand name. But this isn't a game. This is a film for like normal audiences. Like, how many of those people are really familiar with Final Fantasy? You know what I mean? Like, I just think some very questionable business decisions.
That's tricky, because I feel like we've seen cases where that's worked. Like, for example, the Lego movie, right? It's like there are brands that seem to be super unrelated to film that make an effective transition still. And you know, we have to wonder what they did wrong that Lego did right, or that
I think Lego's probably just much more recognizable, though. I mean, because that's a connection between parents and kids that I think is stronger than something like Final Fantasy would be. It's like every kid in the universe fetching play with Legos, built Legos. I don't know anybody that is not familiar with Lego as a brand, but
just speaking to it being a completely different skill set, like being good at developing, whoever they have make the Lego video games even, or the Legos, and then getting into movies. It's like, who do you get to be in charge of that? Because you could still screw that up.
Well, what did Lego do first? Did they do video games first, or did they do films first?
They did video games first.
They jumped into gaming, but like, I guess my question is, what was the investment on that? That's true, because I remember the first Lego game I played was Lego Island, so that was in the 90s. But it's like, I'm sure Lego Island isn't the first Lego game, but it was one of the first. That game's budget, I'm positive, was tiny. It was a small scale game, you know, versus like, we're going headfirst into the deepest of the deep end. We are going to build a gigantic movie studio in Hollywood because I like surfing, or not in Hollywood, in Hawaii because I like to go surfing. You know, it's like they went for this like they went all in, like the $1 million dream, instead of starting here, working your way up to this in making movies. They just like, nope, we're throwing it all in. All the chips are going in on this.
Did Sakaguchi direct Spirits Within?
Yes.
Oh, okay, there you go. Because like, I'm sure they didn't have any. Lord and Miller wrote. No, they directed the Lego movie. They directed the Lego movie, so they didn't get somebody who was already working for Lego. They got outside people.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like you're saying, like Lego they built up to that over many, many years. They didn't just say, we have a huge brand, let's make a $100 million movie. Like, they branched from the Lego sets into small video games and then built them into bigger video games. I would say now that Lego probably puts substantial budgets into their Lego Batman game and their Lego Harry Potter game and their Lego whatever game. Not substantial as AAA level, but, you know. But I don't think they started at the top. They worked up to this over time and like saw the value of the brand growing, and it wasn't like a head first, it was like a feet first approach, which I think is smart. That's smart business. Like, you don't go build the state-of-the-art movie studio right off the bat when you're just first trying to branch into another media. I think that
yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like, go get someone else to do that. Like, Lego didn't build a studio. They didn't bother with that, and they I don't think
just
they
got
would.
Filmmakers to
they
do
just
it. They
got other people
licensed
to do it.
they licensed the brand.
Trying to do it all in-house can be a mistake for a lot of companies. I mean, I understand why Square Enix and Sakaguchi specifically felt like, oh, we make movies already. We got all these cutscenes.
Yeah,
we already got people that can direct cutscenes and they can light scenes and they can animate, and we've got all those people here. Why not just string them all together as one giant thing? And I remember at the time thinking, like, this is sick, because my favorite thing about Final Fantasy games, the new ones at that point, was the cutscenes. I was just like, this will be the greatest thing ever. You know, you have to, you can't, I don't know. I feel like the leap from making video games to making movies, I can see why they didn't think it was going to be that crazy of a leap. You know what I mean? Just like, hey, we're already making movies in our games, so let's just make movies.
And I think that that's where I would argue, like, okay, do it in your Tokyo studio where you're already producing that stuff. Like, why do you got to build this studio in Hawaii for? I think it's just exorbitant costs.
Is that why it failed? How expensive was that studio?
I think their total cost, and I know Sony took like a huge brunt of the cost for that, which is part of why Square was able to bounce back so quick, was because they let Sony shoulder a lot of that burden. And then obviously Final Fantasy X and Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy XI were like huge successes. So it's like, yay, we're back again. But they had like something close to a 95 or $93 million loss or something
on the movie or the studio.
The Spirits Within, like the total costs for developing that, I think included building the studio, which is part of a partnership with Sony, and then you take the gross, but like also the marketing costs and everything like that, and I think the total,
which you're gonna have anyways. But I'm just
$90 million.
I'm just curious how expensive the studio was. Like, what percentage of their budget went towards building the studio? Because if it was like a $5 million studio, then it's not a big enough percentage to have like made or break to make or break it. You know what I mean?
Pictures studio cost. Because they shut it down like right after that movie came out. Squaresoft. It's not coming up. I'd have to look a little closer at that. But
well, anyway, I feel like other brands that we've seen work well. For example, like there was just a Trolls movie on those little troll toys, right?
Yes.
And obviously they didn't start their own studio to make Trolls stuff. They make toys. Get somebody who knows how to make movies. And it's tough to like swallow your pride as someone who directs cutscenes in video games and knows how a lot of that technical stuff works, to swallow your pride and be like, I don't have the depth for this right now. I need somebody else to do it. You know, I could see why Sakaguchi's like, I'm diving in.
And I think he was writing on more than a decade's worth of just like success after success after success. It's like everything they did was freaking amazing. It's like Final Fantasy, bam, more Final Fantasy, more Final Fantasy. Why don't you try this? Let's do Chrono Trigger, bam. Let's do Xenogears, bam. Like everything was so well received for the most part. Everything was doing really good. And it was like that was just a unprecedented, a monumental failure.
And in Hollywood at that point in time, there was this philosophy that animated features, where it was kind of unfair comparing an animated film to a live action film, because that first, I don't know, like giant batch of animated movies from Toy Story on through early 2000s, it was like everyone who made one, it did incredibly well. And a lot of people started thinking this is the silver bullet, and that's when Disney started shutting down their 2D animation, because they were like, it's 3D from here on out.
Animation, yeah.
I wonder if they're looking at that too, going, well, we do 3D animation. Let's jump in it. All of these other ones have just killed. Because you can be so granular with your attention to detail and control and nuance, and like you can screen test a performance and then like tweak it without having to go to a location again and reshoot something. And it's how Pixar does it, right? So I wonder if they're looking at everyone else doing this and like, we got to move now because this, you know, is blowing up right now.
It's hitting a wave.
At least for Pixar, it was quite a while before they had a movie that done.
That's interesting. I'm trying to think of all the more like realistic CGI, like 100% CGI movies that come out. Like, remember that Beowulf?
Like Beowulf, yeah, dude, yeah.
Like, what else has there been? Like,
I don't know.
Because Final Fantasy Spirits Within was kind of like the first one, I want to say that like really tried for that.
I think that
like,
that
was
a
like the speaking point around it was like, oh, it's like these people look real and stuff, which they didn't. But
and Alec Baldwin's a voice.
Yeah, but like aside from that, and like Beowulf, like I'm trying to think of a single
Kingsglaive
movie, Kingsglaive, but that was like trying to be hyper realistic and also trying to be like a worldwide, large theatrical release.
No, I mean it's playing to your
audiences.
Strengths. Like Toy Story was a movie about toys because they could do plastic materials very well, and they consciously decided this has to be about something where you don't see human skin tones and hair and stuff like that we'd have to do. If you do with toys, you can get away with a lot of crap because it's supposed to look plasticky and bad CG. Not that that's bad CG, but cheap CG looks plasticky, and it's hard to get away from that. So, like, playing to your strengths, yeah, that's tough as a selling point to be like, we can do photoreal CG, and even still, they're getting close, but it's still not quite there. Some movies like the Planet of the Apes movies, you get to something that's like almost there, but it's crazy to look back. Like we're almost 20 years past Spirits Within, and we're still not really where you could pull that off. Like Kingsglaive was close.
It's getting there, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I saw Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah,
and I watched some of those the way he moves, like weightlessly, like not good physics in certain parts. And I was like, man, I remember watching those older Spider-Man movies and thinking like that looked so real. And I went back and watched them, and it's like, oh yeah, that's bad. Like I thought that looked so good at the time. Like there's a scene in Spider-Man 2 where he's like Doc Ock took Aunt May and he's like going up the wall, and then like Spider-Man's kind of going up the wall, like trying to like catch her as he's being dropped, but like also fighting at the same time. There's a shot that pushes down towards the street, and Aunt May's like falling, and she was obviously shot on like a green screen, and then they composited like the 2D layer just like falling down towards the ground, which looked kind of weird. But the cars in the street and like just like everything in the scene looks so freaking bad. it's like what the that's so bad. And like so it's
the second Matrix, right? Every time, like I remember thinking all those Agent Smiths look real, and you watch it again, man. It's like, nah, you can tell.
No, they look so bad.
Maybe it's because we were watching on VHS, though. I don't know.
I think that had to have a lot to do with it. Like the movie projectors, like what were the resolutions on those back?
Well, it was still film at that point, so
Well, yeah, but like, I guess I wonder if the quality of projectors back then were,
I don't know,
comparable to today, because I mean I saw some of those movies in the theater and also didn't bat an eye at them, but like at home on the VHS it's like you don't see that stuff nearly as easily. But
I remember watching when the first Spider-Man came out. I remember watching the Ebert and Roper show, whatever they called it, where they'd review movies, and I want to see what they thought about. This is before Rotten Tomatoes, man. But I want to see what they thought about the new Spider-Man, because I want to see those, because I freaking loved Spider-Man. And they actually got into a little bit of it. I wonder if you could like look it up on YouTube now. They actually discussed, one of them thought that the animations of Spider-Man looked really good, and he looked like he had weight and everything. The other one thought he looked like he was just flying around, and it was obviously fake. And between the two of them, it was like one of them thought it looked great, one of them was like, this doesn't look real. So it's so funny.
Yeah, it's tricky. Like, I was reading some reviews on Spirits Within, and some people were saying like, oh my goodness, like, can't believe how real that hair is, which was probably, they've always been good at hair, but like you look at the characters' faces and it's just like, something's weired about it.
In the eyes, man. It's in the eyes.
It's not an alive character, it's a dead face.
I've still never seen that movie. I've got to see it.
It's not a terrible movie.
I remember
not a good movie.
I remember though that all the trailers and things I saw for that was like, this is Final Fantasy?
That was the first thought I had, because at that time I think the only games I had played were 7 and 8, and like a dab in 6. But I had played 7, my friend had 8, and I had played it at his house a little bit. And it was like, my dad brought it home for some reason. I don't even know why. I freaking rented it from Blockbuster. Like, we're going to watch this Final Fantasy movie. It's supposed to have these, like, perfectly real-looking people in it. And watching it, I was like, this is a freaking Final Fantasy. I was waiting for, like, the bombing mission at the beginning. I was, like, thinking, because I didn't know this was, like, a...
There's no materia.
I was like, this has nothing to do with what I knew as Final Fantasy. So even me asking that question back then, I'm sure that like anybody who was a fan was asking the same question. Like, how is this Final Fantasy? This is straight up science fiction.
So, okay, here's something I'm curious about. How many people went to see that movie strictly because it was billed as looking so real and you've got to see this? Versus people that saw it because they knew Final Fantasy. I almost
feel like the former was what it was.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a big part of the marketing of that movie. It was like they, instead of relying on the Final Fantasy brand name, which is essentially what got them to do it in the first place, was like Final Fantasy VII was huge. Everyone bought that game. And the strength of that alone, we could make a movie based on it and they'll go see it. But obviously that ended up not being true because I feel like almost all the marketing surrounding that. And again, the whole reason my dad even got it was like, I heard that the people in this movie look like real life people, even though they're not. I'm interested to check that out. That sounds crazy.
Maybe it would have bombed even more.
That was the whole reason.
If it was not real.
Yeah, it must have been a push for that. Because Sakaguchi registered Mistwalker before the movie came out. So you have to, I guess, think that perhaps they were projecting some serious losses there.
Yeah, they track that stuff ahead of time. It's true, and they're usually pretty dang accurate with that in the months leading up. So, yeah.
So he saw the writing on the wall, and that might have been like the last push they had. Just like, these people look so real. Go see it. It's crazy. All you American people, go see this movie. Oh, these people look real. What?
Well, they lost money on billing on paying Alec Baldwin. That's what did him in. That
was another strange choice. Well, I mean, it's not in some ways too. You have to cast a star because that's part of what gets people to come too. But was Alex Baldwin like ever like a movie star on that level? Like, I know he's famous, but like, was he ever like an Alex Baldwin movie? I'm definitely going to that. Like,
I don't know. I mean, the Baldwins have always been really well known, but I was not aware enough at that point in time to say like what level he was at. He definitely wasn't Tom Cruise, that's for sure.
I know. Like Tom Cruise at that time, it's like fetching everyone go see Tom Cruise because of Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
But interesting. It was kind of the same way with all the casting for Kingsglaive, right? You question. It's like, yes, you need a star in order to get people who don't know Final Fantasy to be interested in it. But come on.
Yeah.
But come on.
I know. That's funny. It's that prestige somewhat, I think. So that, okay, we've got the part 2.
We got way off on
the longest tangent ever.
Part 2 are video games, and that's too early. Yes. Yes, they are.
They often are, yeah. It's true. It's
this is
not having a perspective inside of a team. I think there's some games that have turned out to be received really well that were probably still announced too early, but it didn't matter because they had enough, but they didn't have their full vision. And maybe some people on the team felt like it was too early, but you couldn't tell otherwise, so it's fine.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. I don't think you can announce that a game is being made too early. I think that just giving just the knowledge to the public, hey, this is being made, is fine. Like, people can be like, oh, cool, something to look forward to, awesome. I'll keep checking back and see what progress has been made. I'll check into your press conferences and see what you have to say about it. But don't show anything in the early conceptual stage. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Don't show art, and don't show characters, and don't show story details, don't show gameplay if it's in the early conceptual stage. If you are not very far along into production to the point where this thing is more or less on track for release now, it's like, we've got it. We just got to finish like 3 dungeons and bam, it's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're not at that point, do not show it, because it never, ever, ever is what you saw in the conceptual stage. Like you're gonna come across hardware limitations, other things that are gonna make it impossible for you to complete what you set out to do at the very beginning.
Yeah,
it happens with every game ever. Happens with movies. Happens with everything.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind just talking about this is, you remember the first trailer for Fellowship of the Ring, the one where it's just them walking up and over that ridge, and it just shows them one by one, and it just played some triumphant music, and it just said
it says movie title, and then like the second movie title, and then like the third movie title.
Yeah, and then it was like. But the first one, that trailer was a Christmas time trailer for I don't know what movies it was before, but the Fellowship of the Ring was going to come out that next Christmas, and if I'm remembering correctly, and so at that point they had, because they took 3 years for the initial for principal photography for that. Can you imagine if they had announced Lord of the Rings in like 1998 or whatever, 99? I think when they're just. Or 97, when Peter Jackson's shopping around sketches and armor that Weta had put together. Like, no, but it's fine. Even if you're a year ahead, but they're in the middle of filming and they're well on their way. They're going to be able to meet the deadline, definitely. And you're not letting people know about something more than a year ahead of time, because I don't think there's any point in that, personally.
Yeah.
I think you lose it, because it's easy to be like, oh, crap, next Christmas? Oh, my gosh, right? Like, especially as a kid. It's like... You can vision that.
It's like the difference between the deal being made with the studio, with New Line, and it's like, we are making a Lord of the Rings film trilogy. Give that to the press so people know about it and they'll follow us. Versus, I'm going to make a trailer.
Yeah.
Bring it to a huge precedent.
Yeah.
And announce Lord of the Rings, and with whatever ideas for concept you have at the time. You haven't even like nailed down a script yet. You don't even have a script.
Yeah,
that's a different story.
Yeah,
and I think that's a problem with certain video game companies. They, by certain video game companies, I mean Square Enix. They did this with Final Fantasy 13. They definitely did this, where they announced the game, and they had a character. They had character designs, and they had obviously some art about like what the world would be like, and we're going to have a train sequence at the beginning of this game.
Yeah, with lightning taking out all the guys on that train.
They knew they were doing that, so they made a trailer about that, and it was like they didn't really have much beyond that yet. And so I remember seeing like the battle system, like reading about it in a magazine, and it's like the final game's battle system is like nothing like that. But you know, in cases like that, I think that the personal opinion, I think the Bethesda approach is really where it's at. It's like, come show up to a game convention, show a sweet trailer of a basically finished game. This is coming out in 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Get hype. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get that in a couple months. Like, awesome. I wonder if that would have been different if, like, everyone knew they're making Elder Scrolls 5, but like, if they had announced we're making an Elder Scrolls, it's going to be in the Skyrim region. Then that's it. That's all the information they gave you. Versus like the day they announce it, when it's like, you know nothing about what they're doing, and then they show it to you in a finished form. Like, so I just feel like there's so much more excitement around that, where like you get a surprise, and it's revealed what they've been doing this whole time, and guess what? You can get it really soon. I just feel like that's such a stronger way to do it, personally. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with letting people know we're working on Metroid Prime 4, but they didn't show anything else. I think that's also an okay way to do it, but how cool would it have been instead to show that and then say, 2 or 3 months from now, Metroid Prime 4. Like, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
And when everyone thinks it's dead, and everyone thinks there's never going to be another Metroid game again, and Nintendo hates Metroid, and they say, you know, stuff like that online. They killed it. But then it's like, bam, Metroid Prime 4, and you're getting it in 2 months. That is a totally different thing.
Definitely more impactful. I feel like sometimes it's hard to keep stuff a secret, I guess, because then you have meetings, public meetings with investors, and you're listing crap that's coming up, and you have a responsibility to be transparent with your investors. So sometimes it's hard to keep really good surprises that way for publicly traded companies. But yeah, I agree. Like, I don't see any inherent issue with like Metroid Prime 4 being announced at E3, given it comes out whenever. I mean, if it's true that it's farther along in development than we think, then I think that's great. But you have to wonder, like, why did they feel like they had to do that? And I think it's because of the pressure from the fans. I think that's a real thing. You have to let people know, like, we're not ignoring you guys, and they're responding to that, which is like, sometimes the fans can be a little impatient, I think, with stuff like that.
For sure.
And so, but it's definitely, if they are reacting to the fan pressure, then that's a new thing for Nintendo, or at least something they haven't done in the recent past.
Yeah.
Could be a good sign.
I mean, in some ways, just because of that, I'm almost surprised that they didn't announce it earlier. Like, when the whole Federation Force debacle happened, there was so much bad press about Metroid that they didn't try to correct that in some way, like, right away. Like, okay, we heard you. We're working on Metroid Prime 4. Don't worry. It started today.
They had the creator come up there and say, like, guys, this is a legit Metroid game. You should still buy it. And that made people even more angry. I feel like they...
Really, really bad idea. Really bad idea. Not a good idea.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But for that reason, with what you're talking about, fan pressure, I think that I'm almost surprised they didn't do it earlier. But I think that definitely plays a role into, like, when they decide to say something. In Metroid Prime 4's case, I think we're separated so far from Federation Force and Other M at this point that people, I don't know, they may still be angry, but they're not actively angry. They're not in the forums every day talking about how pissed they are about Metroid Prime Federation Force 2 years after the game came out. Or whatever,
yeah.
You know?
Well, what?
It's like, that's over now.
What Nintendo game is there to be angry
Let it die.
about now? Animal Crossing? I mean, Animal Crossing fans aren't angry people anyways, so...
Yeah.
You know,
what
I don't think there's anything. I think they've announced, like, there's a Kirby and a Yoshi.
Star Fox Zero? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But that was just divisive. It was like some people really liked that game.
Yeah.
Defend it to the death, but...
Yeah. Kid Icarus? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that last Kid Icarus game was received well, too. I wonder if they're going to do anything with that.
They announce a Kid Icarus soccer game, and then everyone freak out. What did you do?
Dude, but maybe that could be cool. Like a flying... Like a new version of... like a Quidditch or something, but it's like
yeah, dude.
a bunch of people with wings.
Yeah, actually, that's true. Has there really not been a Quidditch video game yet?
I think there has. There has, right?
You'd think that could take off like Rocket League or something, right? Like, the problem with Quidditch, though, is the rules are bogus, to be honest, for like a real sport. All it matters.
Video game. Oh, yeah, dude. Look at this PlayStation 2 Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup.
No way! I gotta look that up.
Quidditch World Cup right here. Hold on, I gotta see the gameplay of this.
I mean, because you have to score so many times for somebody, for the seeker to not like be the only important role. You know what I mean?
And that's what they did in the championship game in the story, right? They go in the beginning of the fourth or fifth book, whichever. I think it's fourth. They go to that World Cup, and it was like the seeker catches it, even though they're like 160 or 70 points behind, even though he knows that he'll end the game and they'll still lose or whatever. Just because he knows his team sucks so bad. Hold on, I'm gonna look at some. I'm gonna look at some gameplay for this.
Bust it out.
I'm gonna put it on the screen here.
Because like, you could do Rocket League type stuff with Quidditch. I feel like.
Hold on,
ready for a match against Gryffindor, eh? Let's play for the Quidditch Cup.
Whoops. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you. Hold on.
Let's see it.
Lee Jordan commentating live from a packed stadium here at Hogwarts. My most excellent friend and amateur Quidditch expert, James
Quidditch World Cup.
joined me for today's game between Slytherin and Gryffindor. Thanks,
wow.
Lee. I think we've got
Look at that.
quite a match brewing here today.
It's an intense game, dude.
Whoa, is that Malfoy?
That's Malfoy, dude.
Holy crap. All right, where's the HD remaster of this?
I know, we need an HD remaster of this, seriously.
Let's get the Zodiac Age version.
Oh, is it like a... Wait, is this like a... Oh, no, okay, we go behind the character.
There you go.
This actually looks pretty cool.
What the heck, dude? I would have played this if I knew
that. Oh, bitch! He scored!
Right. Dang! I want you to do a little animation, eh?
Oh, wait, is he playing as Malfoy now? What? Wait, why is the camera centered on the other team? Is he playing as them, or is this like a two-player thing? Looks like it's really easy to score.
They gotta step up the D. I was gonna say, come on.
I'm confused about whether this player is controlling both sides, because whenever the other team gets the ball, the camera centers on that guy, not on a defensive player.
Yeah. This is that perspective where, like in the NBA 2K games, it's really hard to play from that one if you're playing two-player.
Anyways, that's Quidditch World Cup.
Dang! All right, well,
World Cup, dude.
Holy crap!
Hold on, I gotta stop sharing my screen with you.
So yeah, the video game's announced too early.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. It's definitely something that a lot of companies, I think, they know they can generate excitement about it by announcing it a little early. But I do think that in the long term it hurts them. Because even if they make changes that are better changes, or changes that make sense, or like just the idea that, well, I was gonna be able to do this, it's like, well, no, they had an idea of you being able to do that, but whether that's even possible under the constraints and all the variables and balancing is questionable. So you probably weren't ever going to be able to do that. They didn't just like, here's the functioning, mechanic. We're just going to take that out now. That never happens.
I feel like if a game is announced and someone's a freshman in high school and then they graduate high school and the game's still not out, I think that's unacceptable. I think you're screwing up pretty bad there.
Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Yeah. Anyways, it's a complicated issue, like all things are. There's so many reasons why something might have been changed or whatever, and like we were saying, balancing expectation, finished product, making enough money to continue the operation. It's a lot more complicated than anyone really understands unless you're in it. But yeah, I think games should be announced later, probably in most cases.
Agree.
Last question, William Diaz. What is your fastest time for completing a game? Oh man.
So some games are designed to be really, really.
Yeah, it's a tough question because some
like
games
half
are
an
short.
era, right?
Yeah. Some games are short, some games are long. So it's like if I say I beat, I don't know, like some NES game that had 4 levels in it in 2 hours. But is that really like impressive? I mean, it's a short game.
Is there a game that you have like you felt like you got really, really quick at beating and you're kind of proud of?
Yes. Final Fantasy VII. Before I went to Vegas, it was the last time I was going to be able to play it for a while. And I beat it in 22 hours, which was, I thought, really fast.
That is really fast.
I mean, I think that in like a relaxed playthrough, it's something like 35 to 45 on like an average first playthrough. So I beat it in like about half the time as what it took me on my first playthrough to beat it. And I was flying through it because it was like, I have a week to beat this game. Fetch. Like, just went as fast as I could. I knew the materia system really well at that point. I knew which enemy skills to get to make the game easier and everything. So I just blew through it and beat the game as fast as possible. And I think my end clock time was somewhere between 22 and 23 hours. So like 22:18 or 22:30 or something like that.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So that's the fastest I ever beat a Final Fantasy game. But I had played it like 6 times, so I guess that counts. That's pretty fast, but that's not the fastest I've ever beat a game. I mean, I played Metal Gear Solid 3 the very first time, and I beat it in 1 day because I just couldn't step away from it. It's like, holy crap, this is awesome. It's just I kept going, and I think I played it for 15, 16 straight hours or something. Beat it.
So and that's after the 10-hour installation time, right?
Right. Well, back then they didn't have that. But yeah, like, I guess that's a different way of thinking about time. It's like I beat that in 1 day, even though it was 16 hours. But I could have stretched that 16 hours over the course of months if I wanted to and played a little bit at a time. But it's like I beat it really fast because it was like I got it in the course of a day. I just beat the game. It's a really long play session.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another one I guess I would throw out there.
I'm trying to think for me. I feel like I tend to go more for completionist runs of games than like trying to get through them really quickly. I'm trying to think of a game that like Banjo-Kazooie. I love the crap out of it. And I played it several times over. I know I got pretty quick at it like later on because it's one of those games where you get to the end and you're like, oh man, the beginning was so cool. I'm going to go play the beginning again. And then you just go all the way through it again. But, geez, I know you got pretty fast at beating Star Fox 64.
Yes, that's actually a pretty short game, too. I could get through that even now and, like, beat Andros or whatever in a matter of a couple hours. That's kind of how it's meant to be played because it's like there's several different paths. So it's like a lot of the game is just discovering where does it branch? Yeah, like how do I unlock the secret path and then go on to different levels. So I think that game is designed to be like super replayable, so that you beat it many times and figure out all the secrets and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it could probably beat that game in an hour or maybe a little over an hour, possibly. But it's just how it's designed. I beat Ocarina of Time really fast on one of the 50 playthroughs of that game I've done. Kind of the same thing. It's like, I'll see how fast I can beat this. Now, I'm not a speedrunner, so it's not impressive to anybody.
You didn't beat it in 18 minutes? Is that what you're saying?
No. maybe 10, 12 hours? I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that. That's pretty fast for someone who's not cheating at all. But
I think the game that I've played and beaten the most times over is Super Mario World. And I got pretty quick at that one, and then I played it again years and years later, and I was actually surprised how quickly I was able to get through all of it because my earlier memories of playing it as a kid when I sucked, and so I'm like, and there's still hard parts of that game, but I remember that game took ages as a kid to beat. I remember me and my brothers would trade off playing certain levels we get stuck on, and someone would beat it, and then we'd all play the levels after that. But I feel like I got pretty quick at that, but I couldn't tell you how quick necessarily.
Yeah. 30 minutes times I don't know how many days of 30 minutes.
A week? I don't know. That's a good question. See, that they didn't keep track of your times in that game, I don't think. On your file, did they?
No, I don't think so.
Track that?
I can't remember. I don't think in Mario games they did that. They did it on the FF games, but
I know in the Donkey Kong Country games they did. And
they did.
We got quicker at those.
I have never actually beaten from beginning to end any of the Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Country games because I didn't have Super Nintendo. My cousin did. I'd go over to his house. We'd get through like a couple worlds or something, and then I'd have to leave and go home.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, every time I came back, we just started over again. And then, or he'd want to play Earthworm Jim instead. Like, I'm bored of this. Let's play Earthworm Jim now. He loved Earthworm Jim. Or Street Fighter 2. We played that ton as well.
Street Fighter 2, you can beat that one pretty quick.
Yeah, because that's only like six, a series of 6 to 8 fights total or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually have beaten that one. I did that a couple years ago. I was like, I've played Street Fighter 2 to death with like my cousin, but I never actually like went through an entire what is it called campaign. Beat Bison. I had never done that before, so I sat down. I was like, I'm going to do it. I did it. It was freaking awesome.
Or Smash, the whatever they call it, the campaign for like Smash Melee,
the adventure mode.
Yeah, I played the crap out of that because you wanted to do it with every character at every difficulty level to get all the trophies.
I like the adventure mode in Brawl, but it is long. It is long. There are so many levels in that. I think I did it once, but I would never do it again. I liked Melees, and especially 64s, because it could be done quickly, and then you do it again with a different character. And so I really enjoyed that a lot more. But
yeah, doing
that. Kind of upset that they didn't have it in the new version.
Melees with Ness on very hard or whatever it was, the top difficulty. Oh my gosh, that's probably the most angry I've ever gotten playing a video game. I was like dying on Master Hand over and over and over. I played it through, I don't know how much, like a dozen times or more, and I would keep dying at that part. It was the original Dark Souls, I'm telling you. But the Dark Souls of Smash. But I remember my mom yelling at me at one point, like, quit it, like just quit playing the game if it's making you that mad. I was like, I have to do this. I was just screaming and throwing the controller into the couch because you could throw it as hard as you want and it won't break.
And it won't break in the couch.
Yeah.
I think the most pissed I've ever been playing a game, and I've been pissed playing a lot of games, but the most pissed was trying to do that stupid get the Fierce Deities mask in freaking Majora's Mask, where you're the Goron and you're rolling over those jumps. And turning over the jumps and the jumps.
It's so touching with the N64 analog stick.
And that's what's so funny is that I played it last year or something when it came out on 3DS. And I was like, why did I think this was hard? I did it 2 or 3 attempts maybe.
Yeah.
But it was that. That's what it was. It was the freaking N64 stick sucks. It's the same way with aiming, like the bow and arrow, like all those mini games. I really struggled with those on the N64, and then I play them. Well, gyro controls make it a cakewalk, but even with the slider, it's like just so much more accurate. And yeah,
I read an article by a guy saying he predicts there won't be an N64 Classic because the controller sucked so bad that they would never make that as the intended way to control any of those games.
Oh man,
which is too bad.
Funny.
I don't know.
I think that if it had a better stick, it's a fine controller. It's not that much different necessarily from what we have now, just aside from the second analog.
And there's people that you can buy the little mods for your N64 to put a GameCube analog stick into there. And I wonder how
about it is any time you emulate an N64 controller, you emulate the C buttons with a stick, and it never works.
Yeah.
It's not right, man. It's like you mean to do up, but you barely hit a diagonal on the way up and you hit the left or whatever.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, especially in a game like Star Fox 64 where it was a combination of the stick and a button that did the different flips. So you try to move the sticks in the right direction and you end up doing a somersault instead of a what do you call it, where you actually go the other direction. You actually
the U-turn thing?
Yeah, the U-turn or whatever.
Yeah.
So for some games, it just doesn't work. You'd have to have buttons, I think, for it to be optimal.
Dude,
but I don't think it was that bad.
What if that's all controllers were? Was a bunch of analog sticks? You got your PlayStation controller, and you got analog sticks for the button.
Stick for all 4 of those buttons, and then the analog stick, a stick for the D-pad, and a stick for the stick.
Yeah.
A stick for the. You have to press the sticks in on the shoulder buttons too.
Yeah, up and down.
Up and down, you have to go, or something like.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to see that. Somebody needs to mock that up. I want to see what that'd be like.
Every single button is turned into an analog stick.
Maximum control, dude.
Well, actually, if you think about it, if every single input on the whole controller was replaced with a C-stick, instead of saying these 4 buttons are made into a C-stick, the facing button, it's each individual button is a stick.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Then you turn each one of those into 4 or 5 if you include pressing in. It's 5 different inputs, right? So it's
that'd be great for Smash.
5, 10, 15, 20 inputs just right there. 25, the start and Like select buttons have got to be sticks. So 10.
That's hardcore gaming.
Each D-pad is like 20. That's like freaking like 100 inputs, like 100 buttons, but they're all controlled with sticks, movements, or presses.
There's some future evolved human archaeologists listening to this podcast right now that are like, that's what we do now. You didn't do that? Are you kidding?
How could you
elevate your gaming level?
How could you have all the like 100 different responses to the dialogue?
Exactly. Oh yeah, but
you respond with any one of those.
BioWare,
or you could do combinations too, right? So you could have pressing these two sticks at the same time, or these two in conjunction is a different input. So like each stick, but moving, whether it's up, down, but then like pressing that one in, like all the variations you could do on combinations as well being a different input.
Dude,
that's like
all the permutations of that. That's the perfect controller. You have unlimited control.
Do anything, unlimited power.
Dude, there's a new thing with phones that I was just reading about where they're doing like a squeeze, like you can squeeze the frame of the phone and that's another like button to press. You can do that with controllers. You can just squeeze the sticks or the prongs.
All the sticks. What if but then they'd have to control like what is that game QWOP or whatever.
QWOP, yeah.
Where each like individual freaking like muscle
in
the character's body is controlled by some combination of the sticks.
Gotta get the toes, every toe.
So you can give someone a scowl when they say something at you if you like do the right combination.
Oh, you'd be like controlling like an old Hollywood animatronic.
Yeah, dude.
Animate your own character.
Yes. Holy crap. That'd be nuts.
Oh, that's freaking great.
All the kids in the future will be so good at that. Like you know how kids are so good at like strategy RPGs or fighting games, like when they're at their like peak between ages like 18 and 24 or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? But like kids like 400 years from now will be so good at like all that crap. And
they'll have
all the old people be like, what the.
Who's the guy that does those YouTube videos where there's like hands coming off of fingers?
Shoot! I think
or like where it's like a sheep and its head,
like a sheep that turns into
inside out
and like loops all the loops.
Yeah,
dude, what was that channel?
I don't even remember.
Psycho.
Well, that was the best.
Sheep.
If the kids in the future have hands on their fingers and then they just hold it and each one's grasping their own mini controller, like you were saying.
Oh, sheep turning into. What did it turn into?
I don't know. There was a cat one. There was one where it was like a literal like cat bus. I think it was like a cat walking around.
Oh wait, cat bus. That was totally.
Yeah, creepy.
And I'm just getting My Neighbor Totoro stuff.
Dang it. And there was an Adult Swim. They used them on Adult Swim, I think, at some point. So maybe that would. What were those called? Like trippy cat bus or something like that.
Dude, this is so crazy. Wait a minute. Is this it? Oh, that's music. Animation.
Dang, what was that stuff called? It was like a creepy
kitty. Welcome to Kitty City.
Yeah, oh, that sounds right.
I think I found it.
That sounds right.
Hold on, share a screen with you.
That sounds right to me.
Did you watch any more Andrew Uncle's videos last night?
No, not yet. I'm gonna have to get on that.
Holy crap! It's so crazy. Oh wait, I gotta share the desktop. There we go. None.
Into infinity.
This the
one. Yes, dude. This is it. Kitty City. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's so weird.
He's good at what he does, but.
Oh, it's so weird. Anyways, I'm not going to burden the audience with watching this whole video. If you care to watch that, Syriac or
Syriac, yeah, that's right.
This channel has some weird stuff on it. It's crazy. Oh, there's the goat one, the
Hey,
sheep
that
one.
was
It's
the
his
sheep.
like featured video.
Yeah.
It's just called Bah.
Bah. No wonder.
That's all. There we go. It's like this kind of crap.
Anyways, you got one with the hands.
It's freaking crazy.
That's crazy.
Before we go,
Yeah.
we got to open some
Oh yeah.
some gifts. Chocolate Rob. Hopefully he stuck through to the end. He's one of the viewers who would do that, so.
Well,
Or maybe I could put this. Maybe I could put this at the beginning. Oh, that's not true. I could just say, "Hey, at the end of the podcast, we opened stuff from you." So, by the way, we had a PO box. We have now closed that PO box, but everything that is sent there is forwarded to the address I'm at right now. So, I'm debating actually whether I should give that address away.
We can open another box up, up there, and still
Might open another PO box.
Yeah.
Don't send stuff to our PO box for now. But if you do, it'll end up here. But I'm just not sure if I should reveal where I work on the internet.
It's because Kim Jong-un is watching.
Yeah. Anyways, we got some stuff from Chocolate Rob, and we want to open it up.
Yes.
Here for you. He's been telling us for a while we got stuff. We got 3 packages here. So let's check out what he got for us. Thank you, by the way, Rob. He supports us like so freaking much.
Rob is dedicated. Also, still haven't gotten chocolate because I think it would melt if you sent it.
Yeah,
So
he's a freaking chocolatier. He's
Yeah.
never sent us chocolate. Maybe that's what this is. Chocolate. It's not chocolate.
What if it's actually because Rob stands for robber? He's a chocolate robber.
Oh, dude,
And he
this is
just
for
steals
Kaysen.
chocolate.
This is for Kaysen, dude.
Oh dang!
Check this out. Check this out. This is great. Check this out. This is really great. Oh, dude, you're not seeing it because
I can't see it
because sorry, that's a technical issue.
You can describe it to me.
How do I show this to you? It's a baby onesie.
Oh no way! That's great.
Game paused. It has it's like a menu screen,
Okay.
or like a start screen, right? So resume is the top one, and then like
Nice.
poop is the second one, cry is the third one, sleep is the fourth one.
That's great. Oh my gosh, Kaysen's gonna love that.
Little baby onesie.
Oh, that's awesome, Rob.
Kaysen's baby went home today
Yeah,
from the hospital, so I should have left this with you if I had known what it was.
I know.
I wouldn't have brought it up here.
pre-opened them.
From Gerber. Thanks, Rob.
That's legit.
Kaysen and Breezy will love that.
They will.
They will think that's awesome. And now I got a reason to come back down there. Okay, second gift. This one's in a plastic thing. It's always hard to open those ones.
Those things, they just stretch when you try and rip
they
them
just
open.
stretch out. And then they rip apart like a little piece. They don't actually rip. I think I got it though. Okay, and inside is a second one of those kinds of plastic bags that stretch. See what I mean? It's like you pull this, and it stretches, and then it just breaks off a little piece like that.
And you gotta go again.
How am I supposed to open that? Honestly, how are you supposed to open it without scissors, right?
You gotta bite it.
Could do that. I think I got a hole in there. I can rip it open now. Okay. This looks like another one. Another one. Another baby.
Oh, these were all for Kaysen, I wonder.
And it's, I think that's why he was asking if it's a girl. So this one has pink. It says, "My daddy is better at video games than your daddy." With a little PlayStation controller kind of built into that.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, man.
That's freaking awesome. Dang, dude. I wish I had let you guys open it down there. Third one. Third and final gift. The other two. What's this one? It's another one.
They were all for Kaysen. That's
Okay, so this one's a bib and a onesie. So the onesie says, "Whoever took my nose, kindly give it back."
Nice.
And it's like a little face on it. without a nose.
Without a nose.
Whoever took my nose back, give it back. Or whoever took my nose, give it back. And then the bib is the same. It's just a bib, but same thing on it.
That's hilarious. This is going to be the funniest, snarkiest baby around.
This baby's got an attitude.
Yeah, serious attitude. Oh, man. Oh, that's awesome, Rob.
So, thank you, Rob. That's great.
Kaysen's going to dig those.
Hopefully Kaysen will see this in the morning or something, and we'll know that those are for him. Well, if he watches the whole podcast, we'll let him know that you did it. We'll let him know you got him stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you, everyone, for your support. Thank you for watching the podcast. If you're listening audio only, that cat video I just showed would have sounded really weird. Thanks for supporting the podcast. You can find us on YouTube at Dark Pixel Gaming. That's where we do video game analysis, and you can catch us at Dark Pixel for filmmaking visual effects. Ask us more questions for next week's podcast. We're having some slow news weeks in the gaming industry, and so we need lots of topics to discuss.
Not a lot.
Anything you'd like us to talk about, let us know. Either in the comments here on YouTube, or if you support us on Patreon, we always go there first. So check out our Patreon. There's a post there where you can just fire away your questions, and we'll source those first. Or you can ask us on Discord, or on Twitter, or on Facebook, whatever is convenient for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week. Have a nice day.
See ya.